I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I've seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. Greetings everyone, I hope you are fine, I hope you are doing well. I would like to appreciate you taking this time or this moment to watch this video. Thank you very much. Without any waste of time, in this video, I would like to talk about the words of Lord Macaulay. Probably he said these words in the British Parliament, or while he was addressing the British Parliament. So in this document, he was quoted by the former Chief Justice of South Africa, Mogoeng. So I believe that the reason that might have led Chief Justice to quote the words of Lord Macaulay is because he probably wanted to give a wake-up call to the Africans. So this is history, and history is very important. History is the backbone of every individual, because history might help you to make right decisions in life, or it might dictate you towards making better decisions in life. So history is very important. I know there are many people, whenever we talk about the true history, they have this tendency of telling us that we are still living in the past. But whenever we talk about the false history, they are quick to say hallelujah and amen. So this is the problem that we are having, because whenever we talk about African history, then there's a problem. But we don't have a choice but to continue educating our people, to continue telling our people about where Africa comes from. Because I always say, you cannot use the solution of the West to solve African problems. Their solution may work for other countries, but in Africa, their solution cannot work. Why? I would like us to go through this letter or these words of Lord Macaulay while he was probably addressing the British Parliament on the 2nd of February 1835. This is what he said. He might have said similar words with regards to other countries such as India and many others, but right now in this video I just want us to focus upon Africa. This is what he said. He said, I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar. So every time when we see poverty, the first thing that comes in our minds is corruption, poor governance, and many other things, councillors and mayors, and all these other things. But we don't actually go to the roots of the problem, because if you want to solve the problem completely or entirely, you need to go to its roots so that you can destroy it completely. For an example, when you remove weed in a garden. In other words, you have to sift it with its own roots, because otherwise it will keep on frustrating you, because it will keep on growing. So it is very important for us to make sure that whenever we want to solve the problems of Africa, we always go to the roots of the problem. He said, I've traveled the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar. In other words, when you see poverty, the first thing that should come in your mind is colonialism, the colonialists, Western way of doing things, because their intention was all about oppressing you. For an example, if I take what belongs to you, most definitely you are going to suffer. You are going to suffer. It's not going to be suffering only, but many problems will come thereafter as a result of taking away what belongs to you. If I take what belongs to you, you will suffer. But it doesn't just end there, but we are going to have other problems that are related to theft, that are related to many other things as a result of losing what belongs to you. This is what he said. He said, I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I've not seen one person who is a beggar. In other words, begging is as a result of the colonialists taking what belongs to the Africans. Because you have to bear in mind that in 1835, Africa had been there for many years, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. In other words, they have been enjoying their lives without any problem, without begging, without asking for anything, without all these problems that we are having right now. Because if you want to find out a solution when it comes to the problems that we are having right now, you have to dig deep. You have to dig deep. So, but every time we mention the colonialists, every time we talk about the colonialists, people have this tendency of thinking that we are living in the past, we are bitter, and so forth and so forth. This is the problem that we are facing all the time whenever we talk about our history. Then he continued to say, I have traveled across the length of Africa, or the length and breadth of Africa. I have not seen one person who is a thief. I have not seen anyone who is a thief. Right now, as we speak, countries like South Africa are rated high when it comes to crime. They are leading when it comes to crime. You ask yourself, what is a solution? Police officers don't have a solution. Government officials don't have a solution. All these people don't have a solution. But I always say, every time you encounter a problem, a difficulty, you have to go to the root of the problem. Because now, if you deal with the root of the problem, then it means you are going to deal with that problem effectively. Not only that problem, but all the problems that comes as a result of that particular one problem. It's very important, because we have to understand that if you cannot satisfy your basic needs, obvious, you will become a beggar. And then if you don't satisfy your needs, even though you have made a decision to become a beggar, then this is what is going to happen. You are going to start stealing from other people. Why? Because you yourself, you don't have your resources. You don't have what belongs to you because somebody has taken what belongs to you. So if they take what belongs to you, most definitely you are going to become a beggar. And again, if you still don't satisfy your needs, irregardless of being a beggar, then this is what you are going to do. You will start stealing. And the moment you start stealing, you become a problem to other people. Then stealing becomes a culture because other people will start emulating you, imitating you, thinking, okay, if I can't have this, if I can't manage to get this, then I have to start stealing like this man. Then it becomes a culture, then it becomes a problem. That is why right now, when we travel or when we go around our places in South Africa, in many places around Africa, you can tell that young people think like being a thug is a good thing. They think like being a thug is a good culture. But when you dig deep, it was not there. Long time ago in Africa, about 170 years ago, it was not there. This was a strategy. Lord Macaulay was probably not saying these words because he was praising Africa to say, we can learn something from these people. We can imitate these people. We can call these people our friends. We can support them. We can adopt their culture. No, he was far from that. That is why you need to open your eyes very carefully. Whenever you encounter these problems, it's very important to open your eyes so that you can understand where these problems come from. Then he continued to say, wealth I have seen in this country. In other words, it's amazing. Even though Africa is regarded as a dark continent, the poor continent, but here is the thing, Africa is the richest continent. But the colonialists had to make us believe that these resources are not important, so that we can believe in poverty, so that we can think poverty is good, so that we can think suffering is good. That is why many people have this tendency of thinking that when a black person is suffering, it's fine, because it's like we deserve to suffer, we deserve to struggle. So this is a psychological method that started long time ago. So Lord Macaulay was one of the strategists as well when it comes to the colonialists penetrating Africa to the fullest. Then he said, such high moral values, respecting one another, accountability, kindness, loving one another, loving your neighbor as you love yourself, because every time you go to the scriptures, they tell you that you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Africans have been practicing this principle for many centuries. Such high moral values, people of such caliber. He was like, I'm surprised. He was like, these people are surprising me. That I do not think we would ever conquer this country. Then he said, these people, the way they are so united with their culture, their values, their principle, in other words, their lifestyle in general is not going to be easy for us to conquer these people. It's difficult to impossible to conquer these people. It's not possible. But you have to understand that whenever you find a situation that is difficult, a situation that is impossible to crack, you have to die trying. You have to die trying. So that is why the colonialists took it upon themselves to die trying. So that is why they pushed Africans until they cracked. But the most important thing is to understand their strategy. The most important thing is to understand their strategy. Right now, today, we have these problems. It's because of the colonialists. We can talk about poverty. We can talk about theft. We can talk about all these things. But these days, we are quick to blame one another. Even the politicians are quick to blame one another. But when in reality, we have to find the source of the problem, because finding the source of the problem, then it means we will stop blaming one another. This is what he said. He continued to say, unless. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it might be impossible. But here is the thing. Unless. In other words, if someone comes to you and say, but it's difficult to do this thing. But as long as that person says, but, in other words, he might be having maybe another alternative to say, even if it's difficult, but we can still use other alternatives. We can still use other solutions or other methods. So same applies to Lord Macaulay. He was like, yes, it's difficult. These people are solid. These people are united. It's difficult or impossible to crack these people. But unless we break the very backbone of this nation, you might not know what is your backbone, but the colonialists know very well what is your backbone. They know very well what is your stronghold. They know your backbone very well, which has spiritual and cultural heritage. Which has spiritual and cultural heritage. In other words, like for an example, believing in yourself spiritually, having confidence in yourself and even in what you do. In other words, believing that you can like produce something, believing that you can create something. Then in other words, if you believe in your creativity, you will most definitely have self-esteem. And at the same time, you are not being guided by pride and arrogance, but you are guided by a good cultural value such as kindness, respect for other people, humility, in other words, good behavior, good attitude, good way of doing things. You are guided by all those things. But today is different. Today is different. You do things because you want to prove to your brothers and sisters that you are better than them. Because you are being guided by arrogance. You are being guided by the things that you wear, or you are being identified by the things that you have. We can talk about clothing. We can talk about houses. We can talk about cars. This is what defines the people. Why we are being defined by these things today is because we have shifted away from our cultural heritage, cultural values, good principles of life. We've shifted away from those things. So that is why these days when you have a car and your brother doesn't have a car, you think you are better than your brother. When you have a degree, when you have a diploma and your brother doesn't have, you think you are better than your brother. In the ancient times, we didn't have such things. It was rare probably to see such things, but we have shifted away from our position. In other words, if you wear a certain brand, you think you are better than those who can't afford to wear those brands or who can't afford to buy those brands. That is why we see people decorating themselves with money. Why? Because they think money gives them identity. Africa had good morals that was praised by everybody across the globe. This man had a strategy, and this is what he said. He said, unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which has spiritual and cultural heritage, and therefore I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system. That is why right now we have been programmed to the fullest, because we can't even question the modern education system. We can't question it. We think this is the best type of education, and etc. and etc. We brag to one another that I have a PhD, you don't have a PhD. And in other words, right now as we speak, we are full of arrogance. Why? Because we have shifted away from our position. So they were able to do it, and they were effective in doing it. For if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose self-esteem. That is why right now Africans want to think like Western people, the colonialists. That is why Africans right now, as we speak, they want to eat like the colonialists. They want to marry like the colonialists. They want to celebrate like colonialists. They want to walk like colonialists. They want to sound like colonialists. They want to breathe like colonialists. They want to do everything like the colonialists. Why? They were able to break that backbone. They were able to destroy that stronghold. That is why right now the problem of Africans, the reason we have puppets in Africa, yes, sometimes people may say it's greediness, politicians are greedy, and etc., etc. But the root of the problem is low self-esteem. We don't have confidence in our decisions. That is why some of you, even if you can have a degree, even if you can have masters, even if you can have a PhD, when it comes to decision making, even your biological father or your biological mother will trust, at some point, might trust an opinion of a colonialist over yours, irregardless of you being highly educated according to the standard of this world and the standard of the system. Why? It's because these people were able to crack our culture or our backbone, and we started losing confidence. In other words, Lord Macaulay was like, they have to believe that we are better than them, because if they can believe wholeheartedly that we are better than them, then they will start doing things our own way. And when they do things, or when they start doing things our own way, then they will be abandoning their own cultural behaviors that keeps them together, that keeps them united. That is why right now we have confusion. People don't know if they are women or they are men. People don't even understand who they are right now as we speak. And right now, when we talk about gender-based violence, we are talking about black people. We're talking about black people. So whenever we talk about corruption right now, it's like we are talking about black people. It is because we shifted away from our position. That is why right now women don't want to submit. Women think they are independent and they are on top of the world. And we have other men all over social media who talk bad about women. Every woman is bad. Instead of like coming together to say, what is the root of the problem? What is the root of the problem? Because right now we have many people who are causing division. It's like now men and women are divided. We are no longer even emulating our forefathers who took it upon themselves to fight against the system. But right now, as we speak, is like black women and black men are fighting against each other. They call men deadbeats. They call men words, and men call these women that they belong to the streets, all these other ways, instead of fixing the problem, dealing with the problem, because it's very important to deal with the root of the problem. So these people, the colonialists, were very strategic. And this is what he said. They will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them to be dominated. To be dominated. Who is dominating Africa today? The colonialists. In other words, they were effective in achieving their mission. That is why me personally, deep down in my heart, wholeheartedly, I don't believe that their solution can help Africa. So when you see beggars, thieves, and all these other problems, we are not condoning and we are not shifting the blame, but this time we have to blame one person: the colonialists. It doesn't mean we have to do all these things. We have to be involved in crime and all these other things, but we have to know what is the real problem. Because once you become aware of the real problem, it will be easy for you to say, you know what? Here is the solution. Put your political parties aside. Put all these people aside and identify the problem.